Steph, thank you so much for making some time to be on the show. How are you today?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me.
This is exciting. I know we had a great chat just now before we hit record and having a good chat, a bit of a laugh and putting some positive vibes out there. But again, like I said, thank you so much for making some time. I know you had a big week last week and the weekend and now making some time on this beautiful Monday to jump on the show. But as I mentioned, we've got rapid fire straight up, which the listeners love. And you only know one question.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I only gave you one question, which was the first one, just to sort of pre-frame, but the other 14 you don't know. So this is going to be good. All right. You ready?
Okay. Yes.
Let's do it. Favorite song right now?
Favorite song right now and always, Britney Spears' Work.
Oh, right now and always. Britney Spears' Work. Is that like a workout song?
It's actually work bitch, but yeah.
It's okay, you can swear.
It's a surefire good mood boost.
Okay. So do you work out to that or is that just...
Always.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like a sort of workout song.
You want to turn your day around, Jamie. Yeah. That's the one. You know?
Right, I'll play it tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. when I'm going for my run.
Exactly right.
Perfect.
Exactly right.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie has to be Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman. That is a good movie.
Great film.
Good soundtrack too.
Oh, well said. Yeah. Who doesn't love a young Richard Gere and young George?
Totally. Absolutely. Favorite book?
Favorite book? Oh, Tools of the Titans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Tim Ferriss.
Yep. Favorite color?
Black.
Go-to meal?
Like anything Mexican.
Oh,
like,
okay.
So
but what if you had a Mexican restaurant, what would you get?
I will like any, like I probably a taco. Yeah, I'm a taco girl. Yeah.
Like post-comp, post-exercise, little diet phase you go through. The first thing Mexican, taco.
Tacos.
Yep, easy.
I wouldn't say that's probably the first thing I do post-workout, but you said favorite. You said favorite food. You didn't say favorite healthy food.
I know.
But if it comes in a burrito or taco variety, I'm interested.
Happy days. I like it. Favorite TV show?
Oh, I just finished watching 9 Perfect Strangers. Loved it.
I heard a lot about that.
Loved it.
Good. I think my partner watched it. She loved it. I haven't watched it yet. I have to look at it.
It's fantastic. And it's shot in Australia. So
yeah, that's what she was saying. Byron?
It's in Byron. It's
yeah.
It's wonderful.
I have to watch it. First job?
Worked in a snowboard and skate store. Yeah. It was the best.
It was the best.
Yeah. Best few years of my life. I still talk to some of the guys I worked in retail with back then. It was
I love that.
So much
That's
fun.
Awesome. Your biggest celebrity or sporting idol growing up?
Ooh, I mean, no judgment, guys, but Britney Spears, like growing up.
Absolutely.
A young wannabe pop star. But yeah, when it comes to athletes, I've had many. Obviously, that is the space that I live and breathe and worked in for a very, very long time. Like Lindsey Vonn is one of my favorite athletes of all time, probably more so now than back then. But it's so many. I can't. It's not even fair to have
to choose one. Fair call.
Yeah, and
you've done well.
I was being very lucky to train with many great athletes in my life in all different kinds of sports. So I would just feel so unfair having to choose one.
Yeah. What's it like training with a high caliber of an athlete, like on a global stage or almost like a household name in whatever, profession they're in? Like, what's it like to train and work with them?
For me, I'm obviously I've left professional sports now, but I still train a lot of Olympians and a lot of athletes. And for me, it's mindset. I think the mindset of a professional athlete and Olympian is pretty phenomenal, and you can't compare it. So I miss that. I miss that about sports. I miss surrounding myself with that kind of energy all the time. So I still love and adore training athletes, and obviously still spend time with a lot of my mates that are athletes. And I think it's just that mindset and that determination.
Yeah. You get your kick out of them just by training them.
It's so inspiring.
Love that. Steph, what's a pet hate?
Pet hate. Oh gosh. But is that bad that I can't think of one off the straight off?
Maybe. I don't know. There's always something.
There's always something, right?
I'll tell you mine after you do yours. After you say yours, I'll tell you what mine is.
Oh, tell me yours first.
No, because it's going to influence you on your answer.
Pet hate. The pressure.
Welcome to rapid fire.
I know, I'm terrible. I'm not rapid at all. I'm terribly not rapid. Pet hate, pet peeve. Ads, commercials.
TV commercials.
TV commercials, pet peeve.
Especially during sport, like
that's
seriously.
Probably got something to do with my patience. Yeah. If I can't cram it and do it all at once on my A-type personality, then I'm not.
Even though there's so much money in the ads, it's like no ads during the sports. Don't want to see nothing. Just give me live stream.
I don't want to see it in the middle of a match, in the middle of a game, in the middle of a show I'm binging. No commercials. No commercials.
I like it. So mine is one of my pet hates. I've got many. I'm just one of those type of people. One of my pet hates is like, little crumbs left on the table.
Can't do it.
No, like someone's actually made the effort to clean up, but then they've left. So like they've missed an area. It's like, why do half a job? Just do it all. Because now I have to go there and do it. It's just a very small thing, but that's one of my pet hates.
I get it.
Are you a book or audio book person?
I'm a book person.
Book person. Summer or winter?
I like both. Definitely space for both. But
Absolutely.
I love a hardcover, yeah.
Yeah. Summer or winter? I think I know the answer.
Winter, sorry. I didn't have a summer for 11 years.
Oh, wow.
Because I was chasing winters as an athlete. So yeah, I'm obsessed with the mountains, and I love the winter, but not necessarily the Melbourne winter.
No.
I like winters that include Alps and mountains and
beautiful views. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What was it like getting your first summer after 11 years?
It was so strange, to be honest. It was just bizarre, and a lot of sunburn and
totally
a lot of overwhelm. But I love summer now, but it actually took a little while to fall back in love with especially a hot Australian summer.
Absolutely. No, love that. What is something that you haven't done yet that you really want to do though?
There's a lot of places I want to travel to, definitely. And I think especially after lockdown ends, there's, still a lot of things I would like to do. And I would love to do a podcast too.
As in host your own podcast?
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Very inspired by you, Jamie. But yeah, something I've been very fortunate enough to be on many podcasts, but it's something that I'd love to do myself.
Love that. Well, you've got the gift of the gab. You can talk really well, and I don't know if rapid fire is going to work well in your.
I don't think so. I'm not very good at it. No.
You can put the pressure on the guest. That's the idea.
Yeah.
I like it. Sum up your mindset in one word.
Positive.
Positive. Like that. What was 10-year-old Steph like?
Upbeat, very confident, and would always be open to a dance performance.
I like it. Proudest moment.
A lot of pom-poms, a lot of tutus.
Yeah.
A lot of Britney performances.
We've mentioned Britney Spears like 4 times now.
15 years. So I think, as a kid, I did a lot of competitive dance, and so I think that would sum me up as a outrageous 10-year-old.
Totally. When you were going down the slopes, were you ever listening to Britney Spears in the headphones or anything, or no?
Oh, always.
Always.
Yeah, she was.
What about during the Olympics? Like, do you have headphones in or no?
You can't when you're competing, but you can at the start line. So I had a playlist that I listened to for years in the lead up. I had like a Lucky playlist. Something about like Lucky underwear. I had like a Lucky playlist
in perfect order.
Perfect order. I knew every song, and everything was about mindset and visualization and putting me in a good space and a good mood. Yeah. And there was Britney on that playlist, I can tell you.
Britney, I reckon she'd be rapt to know that an Olympian was like listening to her like seconds before going down the dangerous slopes. I love that.
You can only hope so. But
absolutely.
Team Britney. She needs all the support she can get.
At the moment, she definitely needs it. Yeah, absolutely. Proudest moment personally, and then proudest moment professionally.
Oh, that's a tough one. But I think I don't know if this is cheating, but they kind of do tie into each other.
It's okay.
But like personally and professionally, I have to say qualifying for the Olympics, because it was my personal journey for years and years. I put my heart, my soul into being a professional athlete. I missed out on the 2006 Olympics. So to spend that next 4 years of my life, I think personally and professionally, sacrificing a lot to get there, was a huge achievement. So I think
well done.
the Olympics for me is like my, my university degree, my study, my whatever. I dedicated a lot of time and effort to it. So when it came to fruition, it was a pretty big moment.
Love that. Well done. What's it like pulling on the green and the gold? Like getting the uniform given to you and then getting to the games? What's it like?
It's amazing. It's and I'm the first to say I didn't win a medal at the Olympics, but to be ranked in that top 15 in the world and to represent your country, there's nothing quite like it. It's so overwhelming. It's very, very overwhelming, but it's still that feeling of standing in the start gate for me is something that that's my favorite moment. Like nothing can prepare you for that moment and that adrenaline that you get of standing at the top of an Olympic course. So
that.
I think there's a lot of pride in it. Yeah,
absolutely. No, love that. Steph, tell us something that no one knows about you.
I think I've already given away the Britney Spears secret, guys.
Like 5 times.
I blew that one early on in the piece.
Yeah,
that was bad. Yeah. I don't normally give that up so easily, Jamie.
I've done well.
Something that no one knows. Maybe the dancing. Like, I don't know if people know, but like I danced for 15 years, I think, prior to becoming a professional athlete. Was probably a reason why I was such a good athlete. And I studied dance and drama at university, but I left uni to go and pursue sport. So
awesome.
I've always been interested in both the arts and sport.
Maybe that's why you're able to do those cool tricks halfway. 100 meters in the air, maybe not 100 meters, but a long way in the air. Definitely.
I doubt it. No, I was very much known for speed, not tricks. I think the snowboarding community would laugh at that. I was certainly not known for my tricks, but I could beat anyone. Speed was something I never ever phased me.
Love that.
Yes, I was certainly hitting big features and big jumps, no doubt. But I don't know if grace and style came with that.
Totally. Absolutely. Second last question. If you could choose to have lunch with any one person, dead or alive, who would it be and where would you have it? And you've got a 2-hour time limit with them.
Oh my goodness. Look, at the moment, I think I would have to say I'm really in love with the work that Simon Sinek does, and I'm reading his books at the moment and loving his podcast. And I think to have the opportunity to pick his brain would be pretty fascinating.
Absolutely.
If I just wanted to be entertained for a few hours, probably Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Because I just think he's the funniest person of all time. But
he's pretty cool, huh?
But like you, I'm pretty inquisitive and I like information, and I find a lot of the work that Simon does very, very inspiring. So
absolutely,
he would be top.
Where would you have lunch with him?
Oh dear. Well, I don't know. Am I going to America to see him, or is he coming to Australia?
Whatever you like. This is the ultimate fantasy right now.
Well, I was going to say at this stage we'd be having a picnic because I live in Melbourne.
And he couldn't even get here without a travel permit.
I was going to say he can't get here and I can't go 15 kilometers from my home right now. So it's going to be a picnic.
Totally.
With outdoor a cocktail in a coffee cup. I feel like he'd be into that. Maybe. Yeah, no, hopefully I'd be traveling to New York to have that lunch.
Absolutely. Hey, let's email him and ask me if he's down for a picnic.
Absolutely.
I like it. Last question from me for rapid fire is, who is your favorite superhero?
Wonder Woman.
Absolutely.
I think she has a lot of the superpowers that I am attracted to in life.
I like that. Well, that is rapid fire. So well done. You can put that on your resume, put that on the website. That's something, that's an achievement and a half right there. You did really well. But Steph, again, like I said at the start, thank you so much for making some time. You've, in my opinion, following you for some time now through social media and seeing your journey and seeing what you've been able to achieve, and then more of the work you're doing now. One of the things I love personally is just the realness. You go for your swim and you just put yourself out there and you're like, this is me. That's what I love personally. Has that always been a trait of yours?
I think so. I guess I've always probably been someone that dances to the beat of my own drum a little.
Nice. I like that. Yeah,
Guilty.
definitely. Good. Over the last 18 months, through this COVID, maybe even more than 18 months now, then these lockdowns and in and out and working with athletes and being a business owner yourself as well, what's been one thing that you've learned about yourself through this time?
Look, I think there's been many learnings for a lot of us, and there's positives and negatives. But I think one of the biggest learnings for me, apart from agility, right, which I think I probably get a little bit from sport. We've all
Yeah.
had to be pretty agile,
Yeah.
and is patience. I
Mm.
think the ability to pause, and I think the only way we can stay agile and pivot and recreate and come out of this, feeling like our healthiest, happiest selves
Yeah.
is from giving ourselves permission to take a bit more time.
Absolutely.
So I think that's been a big thing for me. Being really open to growing in this time, using this time as like an opportunity that we may not have got otherwise. So I really try to always reframe it as a positive, even though of course there's challenging days, which I know we've had. And just try to I have a lot of energy, right? So it's like and that energy for all of us can go in the wrong direction sometimes. So I have to really learn to redirect that energy, whether it's frustration or whether it's positivity or whatever it may be, into growth or into a new direction.
Totally.
And I'm a fairly determined person. I again probably comes from being an athlete, like short-term, long-term goals.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like channeling that energy into the next steps and what we can do next.
I like what you said there about, we had an opportunity that we may not have really ever got to potentially slow down. And I can definitely relate. Like my thing, exactly the same. Like a lot of high energy here, always pushing, always going, always looking, what are we doing next? Where are we going? Like you said, short-term, long-term goals. But then to have to slow down. Like everyone always says, yeah, slow down and smell the roses, enjoy it. When you actually don't have a choice but to slow down, I think that's prior. I was like, yeah, I got to slow down. I'll have half a day off. Great. Awesome. No worries. Yes. And I've slowed down. But now actually having, now it's this week, whatever it is, of a lockdown and all of what we went through last year, like it's a great skill. And I'm actually really glad I learned it.
I agree. It's that forced pause, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's literally forced pause, and you can choose to use it however you want to.
Agreed.
And I think some have used it better than others, and I've gone in and out of using it well, and not using it well. But I think a lot of great has come from that forced pause, from that
time. Yeah, and that's the thing as well. I think for everyone listening as well, and and like we were speaking earlier, like all the work you've done with the mental health week last week, and all the amazing content you put out, is that there is no right or wrong way to have spent your lockdowns, or there is no right or that there's no you had to have got this, or you had to have done this in this period of time, or you were a failure. Like you said, we said, like everyone's experiencing it somewhat differently, in their own way and in their own world.
As long as you and it's like trying to, be patient with yourself and gracious with yourself throughout this challenging time. Agreed. And see it as a really good test for self. Like I'm someone who's pretty passionate about personal development, and I think it's been a great opportunity, and it's shown us all our strengths and our weaknesses, and we can choose to lean into them or lean away from them, right?
Absolutely. Well, I was going to go into, while we're talking about this, I want to keep this going for a bit. I was going to go into the whole sports, but we'll get there. What you just said, I like what you said. You can choose to lean into it or not, and we have those positives and we have those negatives. What do you see being in some of the work, a lot of the work that you do? How do some people lean into it, and why do some people not? And how do some people reframe it in a positive way so quickly, and how do some people not? Like, what's your thoughts, and what do you see out there?
I mean, I'm lucky. I'm seeing clients on a daily basis still, albeit virtually.
Absolutely.
But I think we're all being tested, right? And I think we need to put good sort of foundations in place for ourselves. And I think what happened was, and look, a similar thing happened to me when I left sport, right? I lost my routine. I lost my get up and go, because it was kind of removed from me quickly. Totally. And without that framework, I was at a bit of a loss as to who I was and what I was, and I formed this bit of identity crisis outside of sport, right? And I think people are experiencing the exact same thing. I think it's quite transferable now, where we've lost our 9-to-5s. People are being forced to work from home. We've lost our balance and our boundaries of when we're working and how we're working, and some people are really good at putting good framework in place and some people aren't.
Yeah.
And people have home lives and kids and partners and families, and we're dealing with, like, constantly dealing with the overload and stress that is a pandemic, but that's on top of, like, the life stresses that we're already dealing with, right? I think it's easy, and I think what happened in the first lockdown is no one knew what was happening, so everyone lent into their bad habits, because when everything's sort of stripped from you or the rug's pulled from underneath you, I think it's easy to lean into bad coping strategies.
What's comfortable, what's easy.
Right. But then, we got into this wave of rolling lockdowns, and for those that didn't set up any kind of foundations or kind of some kind of framework early on, I think found themselves in sort of uncharted waters a little bit. Or then they went the opposite, right? So then it was like a lot of my clients wasted the first lockdown, and then the second lockdown was like, well, now I'm just getting rid of everything. Like, there's no sugar, there's no alcohol, there's no working out every day, and
no
it's
Netflix.
Like, this is the new me, right?
Yeah.
So and then I think we got into third, fourth, fifth, sixth lockdowns, right? And people have gone from all or nothing, black and white, no gray. And so I think those that have survived, survival of the fittest somewhat, are those that have sort of somehow just managed to operate in the gray this whole time, look after their health, whether it be it mental, be it physical, emotional, whatever it would be, but just constantly trying to look after themselves. And I think that's how you continue to build that kind of resilient,
I love that,
mindset, because otherwise, like I said, the structure's not there. There's no rule book, right, at the moment.
Absolutely.
Everyone left to their own devices. That's half the problem.
and that's what I was about to say. I think that's the biggest challenge, is that all of a sudden everyone has their own. I can decide when I can start work and if I want to start early, or and it's like, I don't like all this control. Like, I don't want this responsibility. I don't want the paradox of choice. I just want to be told that I have to start at 9 and finish at 5, and I have to catch the 8:42 train and get the 5:52 train, whatever.
Exactly. I don't want to clean out another cupboard. I don't want to.
Absolutely.
Like, I love those memes, that say, if only I had a week off work, I could achieve so much.
Totally.
A month off work, there's so much I could do. And then you're like, oh, nope, that wasn't the problem.
Absolutely not. Never was. And never. And same sort of similar thing. And I like what you said about the foundations, is you sort of set this, like you said, the routine and the habits and it doesn't, you don't have to be an athlete to have a routine and habits. I think that's where a lot of people get confused. Like with a lot of the clients that I had, like, but only athletes or professionals or people that get up and go for a run have a morning routine. I'm like, well, you don't have to exercise in the morning to have a morning routine. Like, your routine might get up, stretch, make coffee, see the kids, read the paper, whatever. And you might exercise at night. That's okay. I think people attach morning routine and habits to exercise for some reason, and cold showers and all that sort of stuff. What do you think?
I think, and I'm like, I work with everyone, right? Like everyone from your everyday person to your corporate or your business leader through to Olympic athletes. And I think the one thing that is a common theme between everyone is everyone has, the most successful people, I think, is the people that do have some kind of consistency or habits or routine in their life. I think they are the foundations, and the people that I aspire to or admire, whatever the right word is, or like the most successful people I work with or see are the ones that they're almost quite ritualistic, about their habits and about their non-negotiables or the way they go about their days.
Would you say they're very structured?
Yes. It's and like you said, it doesn't mean it has to be at 7 a.m. every day.
Exactly right.
But it means it gets done no matter what.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So like freedom within boundaries, right?
100%. I've always believed that structure brings freedom, because you're structured, you know where you need to be, you know where you need to go. If something comes up, you're like, well, I can't handle it now, I can do it later, or I can handle it this time, or I've got 5 minutes now, I'll take that call, because you know where you need to be, compared to being, you don't know anything. And you're like, oh my God, all these things to do. What can I do? Where do I need to be? Where am I at? This call's coming in, can't answer it. So I definitely believe. I
know, I'm with you. I think it's what gives us the control, right? Puts us back in the driver's seat a
Absolutely.
little bit. Even if it's just our own driver's seat.
Absolutely. You touched on earlier sort of coming out of Olympics and your athlete journey. I know you had a serious injury and then the mental health repercussions off the back of that, which you worked so well on to now be able to pass it on and educate and share. What was your journey like at that time? Because obviously now it's a lot more support. It's a lot more well known, the mental health space. At that time, how did you handle it? What was it like? How was it received?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I mean, I understand it a lot more these days. You know, I think there's a direct link between physical and mental health, right? Yeah. And I think people have learnt that, especially during COVID. But there's a lot of research now too that, you know, people with serious mental health conditions, as an example, are at high risk of experiencing chronic physical conditions, right? And vice versa, people with chronic physical conditions are at risk of developing poor mental health. And I think that's certainly where I sat in that category, the latter, in my early 20s when I had my accident. So, you know, for me, I'm naturally, I think, or innately quite an optimistic, high energy, positive person, but my physical injury and the chronic pain that I was dealing with, and the chronic pain management over a certain amount of years, and how it impacted my professional career, or essentially took away my professional career, was what led me to have, you know, more poor mental health. You know, that's what drove my anxiety and drove me into a more negative headspace.
Totally.
Because, and like linked to what we were just talking about, I lost a lot of that routine and what I knew to be my everyday life.
Correct. Prior to the injury was like, obviously, again, now it's, you know, it's a thing to work on your mental health before you know, have a challenging time. For you, were you working on your mental health before you had that moment?
It's funny because up until my injury, I'd never seen a sports psychologist. So everything I'd done in my professional sporting career, I think I had very much relied on my physical ability. And my determination, if you will, because it was kind of like being back on the Jamaican bobsled team back then. Like, it was like,
absolutely, and
it was an action sport, right? Like, it was a X Games sport that had transitioned its way to modern day commercial sports. So, you know, you already have to be a certain type of personality to do that kind of sport and have that kind of white line fever, I think. So I mean, I really kind of already had that, I think, somewhat. And it wasn't until, I guess, that structure and that excitement of that high energy sport and action was removed, that is when I really started to, I guess, look at my mental health. And that's when I started working with a sports psychologist.
It was such a polarization. Like, it went from everything to not nothing, but it was just like the highs, absolute highs, down to, wow,
totally. And the risk of sounding dramatic, for me, it was going from all to nothing. Like, you know,
in your world, it was
jumping out of helicopters and competing at the Olympics and being on the World Cup circuit, to not being able to get through a 20-minute Pilates class without a great deal of pain. And my life became about rehabilitation, which you can ask any athlete. We actually don't, I mean, not everyone, I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone, but a lot of us don't actually love having to put the amount of hours into the gym that we have to. What we love is our sport.
Totally.
But we do all that work because it makes us a great athlete. So to remove the sport and the glory of sport and the excitement and the competition and the camaraderie and the tour and go back to just doing the rehab, like, that's not why we signed up for the sport.
Totally.
You know?
Totally. But you know what? I think, in a way, like, if we look at that there, that's almost in a way what life is, because, like, you're doing the work every day, not for the unknown, but it's like, there is no, in 3 years, I'm going to the Olympics. So you're every day reading, every day exercising, every day working on yourself, every day learning something, every day like developing and evolving and growing, for the hope that it might pay off for something, whatever that goal might be.
Thank you for saying that. I think that's spot on. That's absolutely right. And honestly, it took me a few years there where my physical ability, I should say, I took for granted for a really long time. And then I almost didn't like sport and health and fitness for a while there, because it just went against everything for me. It was causing me hurt and pain.
Totally.
You know? So it took me a few years to realize that all I needed to do was put my athlete cap back on and have the mindset of an athlete, even though physically I wasn't able to embody the athlete that I once was.
Totally.
And realize that there's so many transferable skills. And
100%.
it really is about what you do every single day, and look after yourself to, it's the work that we have to do on ourselves every single day. And it's the same as what I'm telling all of my clients during lockdown and during this challenging times during COVID. It's like, stop worrying about the old you and focus on the new normal, I guess. And
whatever that may look like.
And whatever that may look like, and just be your healthiest, happiest version of yourself in that, no matter what it looks like.
Yeah, for someone that's working on those habits at the moment, someone's trying to build routine, build habits, trying to, see the vision, see the goals, create the goals. What would be some advice and tips that you would give to them to sort of say, cool, this is a starting spot? Like if they're starting at base where they're not in a bad space, but they're just like, I don't have any goals, I don't have any visions, I can't get up in the morning, I can't do what I need to do. What would be some habits or some tips that you would want to give them?
Number one, I always say, start where you are.
Nice.
I think that's the most important thing. There's no right time. It's just what you do with that time. So start where you are. Secondly, I think I always say I don't believe in motivation. So for me, I believe motivation is fleeting and unreliable. But instead you need to rely on discipline. So, no good athlete wakes up one day and hopes they'll be motivated to get up and train. And especially in my sport, we were training in minus 20 degrees sometimes.
Whoa.
You don't wake up being like, oh, I can't wait to get out there. It's the discipline of knowing you're getting up and going out there so that you can, because when you turn up on the hard days, the easier days are just so much easier.
Absolutely.
Days. When the sun is shining and you can compete on a beautiful blue sky day, it's because you've done the work on those days.
Absolutely.
In the snowstorm and you're battering it out. But I think it's the same thing applies now. So it's like, don't wake up and like wait for motivation to be at your door, because it's not going to be there. So it's like, have a commitment to yourself and that discipline that you get up and do what you need to do every day, and have a solid list of non-negotiables. So I'm a big believer in non-negotiables, the things that we do for ourselves to make us feel like our best self. Right. So it's, it's like a non-negotiable for me that if you're one of my clients, it's like you have to have a pretty solid list. And you stick to that list.
Absolutely. Give us an insight. Give us a couple of things that are on that list, whether for you or for your clients. You don't have to give us the whole list, but what's a non-negotiable for Steph?
Sure. I'll share one of mine because I think that's only fair to share mine. And what works for me, like physical health is obviously number one on my non-negotiable list. Movement and exercise is like the springboard to better behaviors and habits in your life in other areas. So not because I was an athlete, not because I come from sport. I know, and the science says it, and the research says that's what we need to do to get those happy hormones going, right? Those happy hormones. So exercise, number one, every single day, 30 minutes if you can. Mindset, number two for me. So, I don't love the word mindfulness, and that's not because I don't believe in the practice. I certainly do. But I think that meditation, mindfulness, and mindset look different to everybody, and everyone has to find something that works for them. So find some kind of meditative practice or mindful practice or mindset practice that works for you. So mine is, I do a lot of breath work. I struggle, I open and admit that I struggle with like your traditional meditation, but I still do it because I know it's good for me.
Totally.
But the breath work works really well for me. A lot of mindful movement practices. And music's a big part of how I move and feel good and what I do. Maybe I'm just an up-tempo person and need a beat all the time. I don't know, but music. And I mean, there's a list of many, but something I've had to learn and I constantly work on is the power of no thank you, and the ability to say no thank you full stop when something doesn't serve you in life.
I like that.
Listening to that intuition, when like internally you're sitting there going, oh, don't do it. And then you're like, sure, Jamie, I'll see you at 6.
Yeah.
It's like that practice of saying no, thank you, full stop.
How powerful is that?
No justification.
Yeah. Was there a moment for you where it you had said yes too many times? You're like, fuck this, no more. Like it's no's.
Oh, fuck. I'm a yesaholic. Like
Yeah.
I'm a former yesaholic, but
Yeah.
it's one of the bad habits that I fall into.
Yeah.
You asked me, what did you ask earlier about, things that annoy you? There we
Totally.
go.
Pet hate. Yeah.
Pet
yeah,
hate.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
my pet hate. Like saying yes when you mean no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a yesaholic. So
Yeah.
I've really had to learn to, like, it felt very selfish for me for a very long time not to be able to say yes to everything. So I've really had to learn to just where my energy is best put.
Totally.
And how I can be a better person by I guess looking after that kind of energy exchange and where I put it as well.
There's a lot of power in saying no to something that doesn't like serve you.
Massive.
And I remember the first time it really hit home for me when I said no to something that wasn't serving me, and I was like, damn, I feel good.
It's like this internal win, right?
Yeah,
like,
it was almost better than actually saying yes to something that I really wanted to do. Like I said no to something that I didn't really want to do, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah. It's like a test to yourself too sometimes, because then it opens up space and creates space for you to use that time for something more productive.
I think it's equally as like a proud moment. It's like I said yes to something I wanted to do. I'm proud of what I did. I said no to something that I didn't want to do. That's equally, if not more, of an achievement. And it eventually just becomes easy.
It's a very good value of self.
Yes.
So, and of your own time and value. So something, again, I'm still working on it. But
well, hey, I appreciate you saying yes to coming on the podcast. Absolutely.
It's an absolute pleasure.
I love that. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about snowboarding. Where did it start? How? What's been your biggest jump? I've got like 1,000 questions. Like I want to know.
Oh my goodness.
I'm an ex-athlete myself. I love sport. Watch it all the time. Like was binge watching the Olympics when it was on earlier this year, and then obviously the Winter Olympics and the Paralympics backing it up. Sorry, but yeah, talk to me. Talk to me about snowboarding. I've only ever been to the snow once when I was like 10, so I don't really remember a lot. Yeah,
I'll just parlay off the back of that. I know how good were the Olympics. Like I think in the times, these challenging times that we're all living in, like I'm still of the belief that sport and music are the two things that can bring people,
absolutely
unite people. And I think having the Olympics, sadly without a crowd that these athletes deserve, I think it was still so uplifting and really gave people something.
The timing of it, like I think globally, was just.
Wasn't it?
Needed.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So long and involved story short, I started skiing as a kid with my family that took up skiing later in their life, and I hated it. And then my dad took up snowboarding in the 80s, and my parents then bought me a little secondhand snowboard, a pink little snowboard. And,
Britney Spears written on it or not?
Not yet.
Not yet. Later on.
But there was an ode to that later in life, because I ended up competing on the Olympics on a bright pink snowboard.
Love that.
Just like as a little ode to that first ever little 80s snowboard that I had. And it was secondhand that we brought from another family friends that we knew, and it was a boys board. And I just took to it. I loved it. And it's really like, it sounds silly, but like that was the changing moment, I think, because I still don't ski. I can't ski, but I love snowboarding, and I just took to it. I don't know if it's from the dance background. I don't know if it's because balance and agility are my thing. I have no hand-eye coordination whatsoever, but snowboarding is like, it just made sense. My happy place. Yeah.
Love that. Did you ever anticipate going to the Olympics, 5-time world champion? Like, was that ever a thing, or was it more just fun at that stage?
No, I didn't. And I'm very honest and open about that. I didn't wake up wanting to be the kid going to the Olympics. Like I'm just someone, I think, that puts 110% energy into everything I do. And snowboarding for me was never a job. It was always a joy. It was something I loved, and I took it up very late in life. Like, so you would never take to a sport at 13, 14 years of age and think you were going to go on to compete at the Olympics. But I guess snowboarding is one of those sports where you can, or action sports, I think, are a little different. They're not as like defined by age.
Yeah.
I say, more probably from just like ability and like how like big a set of balls you have in action sports.
So agreed.
you know, I was lucky. I always trained with boys, and men and women compete on the same course in my sport.
Yeah.
So, you know, there just wasn't many other women in Australia that were snowboarding at the time. So not to take away from my 5-time Australian title, but there wasn't a lot of competition. But it turned out I wasn't just good in Australia. And then I started competing when I was 16 or 17 overseas. And I think even then my parents were a bit like, oh yeah, okay, we didn't expect that. Well, it turns out you're actually okay. Like, not just okay in Australia.
Yeah.
So awesome. I went on, I finished high school, which was really important to my family at the time. I went to university. I got a year into uni and just had this craving, this deep urge. I was just missing competing so much. And I was seriously just doing it for fun. But I had a lot of friends that had gone overseas, or a lot of people, other men and women that I was competing with overseas that were like, what are you doing? Get over here, have a crack. And so after a year at uni, a year and a half at uni, I think I pulled out and thought, I'm going to give this a go. And like I said, I just missed out for the 2006 qualifying for the games. And then that was sort of what gave me the kick up the ass to be like, I'm going to give it another 4 years and give it everything I've got and see if I get it. So I've still got, it's actually here, a frame that is like the letter I got when I qualified for the Olympics. And like, if I'm having a bad day, I look at that frame sometimes.
Does that come in the mail, like a letter like that? Or is that like, oh, wow.
And you have to wait for it in the mail. Oh. And I think like a lot of people don't realize too, like the Olympics are 4 years apart, but you only find out maybe 3 weeks out from the games that you've actually qualified.
In your sport or just in general, like for most sport?
Most sports. So
even Summer Olympics?
Yeah. So you train for years. And of course, you know your ranking, you know your world ranking.
Totally.
And you know where you stand, but you still have to be selected by your own country to go. And there's only a certain amount of quota spots in every country. So you might be the best in your world, but if your country has 10 people that are really good, there's only a certain amount of quota spots per country. And they can choose to put those quota spots into other sports.
Wow.
Where they believe there might be other better results.
Potential for, totally.
And that's the politics of sport. You know,
well, that's what I was about to say, but I didn't want to say that. But
don't talk about. But it's
You know,
I was a top 15, top 20 in the world athlete, and which is something I'm very, very proud of these days. But sometimes if you're not cracking the top 10, you're not a priority either. So, you know, I knew I had to be in that. I knew I had to be in that top 20 seeds in the world to be considered to go to the games. And you have to be so consistent in your results in the lead up to the games. And I'd had a couple of smaller injuries, and you just have to be on your A game, and timing has to be on your side. Like, so many things have to align for that one event. So, like I said earlier, the most overwhelming experience of my entire life, and not my best result. Like, for me, I didn't get the result I wanted at the Olympics, but do
you think if you went again, you would have, I guess in hindsight, like you would say, we were more prepared. I've experienced it once, going back the second time. Do you think you would have taken a lot from that first one and then gone to the second one and be like, okay, cool, now I've got it. I'm not as nervous, or I'm not as, How do you think your second one would have played out, other than winning the gold? But
and to admit that how many times I've played that in my head, Jamie. But yes, but there's a double-sided coin to that. One is that after my injury, because it was just after the Olympics, it's probably what got me out of bed every day and did the rehab, right? The thought of knowing that I was going to go to another Olympics because I didn't get the result that I wanted at these games.
So you used it as the fuel, I think
it was a really good fuel to get me through a really hard time in my life. And everyone says, like, I had a lot of mentors that were Olympians and ex-professional athletes, and they always say that it's your second Olympics where you do your best, because the first Olympics is so overwhelming. It's like a Disneyland for athletes, right? It's just like, it's on heat. So to be able to go back with, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? But like that hindsight, to be able to go into another one knowing what you're kind of walking into and how you can prepare yourself for that, absolutely would have been a completely different. And the stats and the results of athletes show that. So
definitely.
I would have loved to have had that chance.
Well, hey, never say never. Like we said at the start, there could be an opportunity to play some sport in the Olympics somewhere. Who knows what that sport? There might be a new sport they bring out, and Steph's like, "That's my sport. I'm in. Count me in.
No, I'm like, my friends joke all the time about like signing me up for these horrendous reality TV shows, right?
Yeah.
Like,
There you go.
yeah. And they're like, oh, we'll sign you up to, God forbid, like the Bachelorette or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, I'd go on SAS. Honestly, I would find that easier.
Totally.
Like, pop me on,
Yeah.
put me on Survivor before you put me on in a house full of
it's gold.
dating show. Like I'm all about the action and the adventure, right? Like throw me on a Tarzan rope, push me off a cliff. I'm
absolutely
way more comfortable, guys.
Is SAS still called a reality show?
Yeah, I don't know. True, actually.
Is it? Like, I think it is, but it's like, that's zero reality. Like, that's an insult. If you ask me,
Yeah,
I watched that and I said to my partner, I was like, can you find an SAS course somewhere in Australia? I want to do it. Like, I actually would love to experience that.
Exactly. I'm very driven to, let's be clear, to the action sports side of that show, not necessarily the personal derailment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. But that excites me a little bit. You see, maybe I'm a little bit, loose or something, but again, you got to be a little bit, interesting. You got to be a little bit gone to it.
Are, Jamie.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I like, I'm like, you know what? There's probably another level of me that I will probably never get myself unless 5 guys are just abusing me and telling me to jump and telling me to swim. Like, I won't get that level unless I have that.
I agree. There's part of me that is very excited by that thrill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's something wrong with us, Steph. I think we've just...
yeah, maybe there is. But it plays back into that personal, development to a point, right? Like, I think as athletes, you're used to being pushed. You're very coachable, and you're used to being, finding your threshold, right?
Absolutely.
So through. I think that's why it excites us a little bit. It's not all bad, right?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Hey, being as an elite athlete, how do you think that's helped you become the person you are now? I know we've sort of touched on bits and pieces it throughout, how it's served and some of the habits and the routines and the structures that you've been able to take and some of the mindset and how you've used it. But how do you think it's best served you now?
I think I would have to say into like my professional career of coaching and sort of what I do now. I think like up until my accident, I'd taken my body and my health, my fitness for granted, very much so.
Yeah.
For 24 years of my life, and I probably didn't really understand what my life would be like without health. So I truly, it's what's kept me in the health space and the health and wellness space, and it took me on an all-enduring sort of wellness journey that I would not have gone on otherwise, had I stayed in sport. So I'm very, grateful for that. And I think it really changed the way I look at health and fitness and how I coach and educate others now, and looking at health a whole lot more holistically. So I think that's really helped shape the kind of work I do now with my coaching, with Studio PP, with my movement practices, with all of that kind of work. I think I just come at it from a completely different angle, but I'm grateful for like what we've talked about, like the resilience of being an athlete. And what you put yourself through is not comfortable a lot of the time, but I think it does make you a better person, and you can learn a lot from it. And there's a lot of transferable skills that I didn't used to think were interesting to others. And it took me a long time to lean into that a little bit too, and understand that, you can help a lot of other people from sharing your own experiences.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think it's a long-winded answer.
Well, and what I was going to say is that we've all sort of got our own story that sort of people can align to. Like, they may not have gone to the top of the slope and being cool and about to go down on an Olympic level, but they may have their own version of that in their own world where they can say, you know what, I've had a high where it didn't work out, or I had an accident, or, a relationship or a business or a health goal. There's always something that they can align to when you start to share. Is that what led into, so during your recovery time, what led into Studio PP and led into the whole Pilates space? And was it through the recovery that you found the passion for that?
Definitely. I mean, I think health is sort of at the core of like everything I do. And that's certainly how I found Pilates. Like I said, I danced for 15 years. So I think I always had that at sort of the core. Movement has always been a big part of my life. But I found sort of the clinical side of exercise and the, that sort of more prescriptive side of exercise and recovery through my rehab journey. And I'd done Pilates through dance a little bit, but I sort of came back to it through everything I was doing. So I think that was a big part of starting Studio PP, and I was sort of going through my own sort of health journey as well. So it was transferable to a lot of other people. It's, I think, and a big part of what I do through PP now and through the work that I do is like somehow translating sort of high performance back into everyday life, which I think we've touched on in so many ways today. But it's just bringing those kind of transferable skills, that I learned, everything like you said, and not just because I come from that high performance background, but I, to really help others kind of drive effort, better output, productivity,
in whatever it is they're doing, like in everything.
That's
and the best part about it.
I think well-being and health is at the core of all of that. So correct. I think Studio PP, which, aptly stands for premium performance, which is what I want everyone to feel like the most premium version of themselves and to be able to perform at their best. It is really at the crux of that. It's all about helping people live a healthier, happier and more fulfilling life, which is certainly what I was searching for after sport.
Love that. And I love what you've done with the studio as well. Like you said, you're really driving that through your experiences and then all the amount of people that you get to work with, that professionalism. It's like there's some foundations that we need to set. There's non-negotiables that, like you said, all your clients have. It's like, these are the things you have to do. But you don't have to be an athlete though.
No.
I think that's the most important message that I think
everyone has to categorize themselves. Wants to be the best version of yourself, and I'm interested.
Absolutely. Athlete doesn't mean that you have to wear a Guernsey or be branded in a certain way with another group of people. Like every day you're an athlete, like you have to turn up as the best version of yourself. Like that's a job. Like that's hard.
That's our one job, right? Like we only get one body and one life. That is our job, is to use that time and that life and those skills that we have
totally
the best of our ability.
And
try to enjoy the ride along the way. Exactly
right. And I think now, like we were saying at the start, patience, slowing down a little bit, we've started to appreciate and see what is actually important, because I know that's definitely been the case for me. And now realizing what is important, I can give that all of my energy and give that all of my attention and focus on those few things that are most important compared to what I thought used to be these 10 things that were so important. It's like, what, only these 2 or 3 things are what I really value in life and what I really want.
It's true.
That's where I'm going to put my energy. I like it.
The who's and the what's. I think everyone's question there, who and what is important in their life during COVID.
I like that. How do you think you've personally evolved this last 12 to 18 months?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
I mean, growth and being able to continue to evolve, I guess, like you said, it's a part of our job, right? But I think for me, it's very much about giving myself time, space, and patience, like I touched on. It's something I think I'm quite not aggressive in my approach, but I am determined, and I go at 100 miles an hour, and that can relentless, and that can work against me sometimes. So I've been grateful for the forced pause. It's helped me put attention and focus back into things that have been great, and that I've really enjoyed, and I wouldn't have put the time and energy into them had I not had this opportunity. I hope that I could say that personally, I think I've learned to be a little bit more patient and maybe open-minded. And and maybe I've just learned to give myself a little bit more permission to look after myself a bit better again.
I like that. And to say no.
That's a big part of my message, right? But you've got to walk the walk and talk the talk.
Absolutely. And I think that's where that real connection comes from. Like I was saying at the start, like there's that real realness. It's like, I'm not perfect, but I'm going on this journey and I'm showing up every day as this is what I'm working on and this is the results I'm getting.
Yeah,
and I think people can really connect with that.
I hope so. I hope so.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
they are. I'm sure
There's got
they
to
are.
be a level of authenticity in this world that we currently
Agreed.
live in, and I think the health space especially can be a very uh, inauthentic space
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really like, I think whether it be about health, about wellness, like what we said earlier about productivity, well-being,
Totally.
whatever angle you're coming at it from, it's like just be the best version of yourself.
Yeah. There's a real calling for it at the moment.
It
I
really
agree.
is.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. What's been your best life lesson?
Oh gosh, big questions, Jamie.
As we start to wrap it up, we're going to go deep. And
No. There's been a lot. Certainly. Don't fear change. I think that's something I've really learned over the last few years. Like, you really can reinvent yourself, and you can start again, and you can start from nothing. And I'm saying that from, I mean, people would have far more exciting stories than I have. But from leaving sport at 24 and not having another career in place and starting again after that, after my accident, to going and starting my own business in health and wellness. I went through a divorce a couple of years ago, like just a lot of constant change. Then obviously the pandemic is forcing us to not be afraid of change. So I just think
yeah,
over the last sort of 10 years or so, I've just had like constant changes, and really being okay with that, and being in the flow with it, accepting of it, and seeing where it takes you. Because sometimes a reroute can be really exciting too.
absolutely. Would you say it's like a built skill over time? Like it's not like you don't go from not experiencing and not fearing change to just fearing it. Like there's like this, okay, I gotta do it again and again and again and again and again. Like it happens over and over and over, and then you just somehow like be okay. Like, is that what happened with you? Or was it one time it's like bang, it just hit and it's like, I don't fear it anymore?
No, I think you get better at it for
Yeah.
sure. But I
Yeah.
think like anything in life, like the hardest challenges, and sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to better outcomes.
Absolutely.
There's always a silver lining. So,
There's always a blessing there. Yeah.
and you can't see it when you're in it. It's really hard to
Yeah.
see the
Yeah.
trees when you're in
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it always leads to something. So I think that's a big part of it.
That's the
sure.
positive light. Again, especially at the moment, like someone listening to this might be going through a not so great time, and that's the positive light there for him. Like you don't have to know the answers right now. You don't have to see the path right now. You don't have to know what tomorrow holds. Just gotta have a vision, stay strong, work on yourself, strong belief, strong confidence.
I think if you're healthy, and that's a pretty open word, but and that's mentally, physically, emotionally,
covering all the
spiritually,
bases, yeah,
environmentally, like looking at your well-being holistically. And if you're looking after yourself, I think that gives you the strength to take on challenges and turn up every day and
totally,
and do what you can, and be quite aware of yourself in all of those different facets, which we're not good in all areas. None of us are, right?
No, yeah, agreed.
That's what balance is all about. And that's what we're all seeking, right? Like we're all looking for this miraculous thing that we call balance. But sometimes we're going to feel it and sometimes we don't. And the more fluid you are with that, I think the easier it is to ride the wave.
Totally. Something on balance, something that I think you might find value is a really good friend of mine, and I'd call him a mentor of mine, someone I look up to. He said to me, Jamie, like, we're not really looking for balance, we're looking for harmony.
I love that.
It has to work. Whatever way it's going to work, that's harmony in your world. Whether that dead balance, like, unfortunately, probably will never exist as a flatline balance. But we're looking for harmony, and we've all got our own version of it. And when he said that to me, I was like, wow, like that made sense, because I was always thinking that I had to be a certain way to achieve balance. But I was like, no, I can be my way of harmony.
Yes.
As long as I'm achieving.
Yes.
Which works well. Second last question for me. Talk to us a little bit about your internal dialogue, because I've gone on this personal journey myself, again, working on, we're all, as I say, kids in adult bodies, right? From the imprint stage, 0 to 7, we're all replaying those values, those memories, those stories, those experiences we have. That's what we base who we are off. What's your internal dialogue like? Like, how do you talk to yourself? It's the only voice you hear all the time. As an athlete, what was it like? As Steph today, how is it?
I think like internal dialogue is something I speak about a lot in my coaching, in when I do talks as well. It's something I think I had to learn at a young age as an athlete, like how we talk to ourselves, on game day, versus how we talk to ourselves when we wake up first thing in the morning, And I mean, I will share a quick story with you, but I had a very Austrian coach who we were in the team van one day driving to a competition, and I'd been injured and it was my first competition back in a while. And obviously he'd probably noticed I wasn't in my best space, and he just said, "How are you feeling about the race today?" And I don't know, I can't remember my words exactly, but it was something along the lines of, "I'm just not sure how today is going to go," based on obviously whatever it was, injury. I wasn't in my best headspace. I said something along the lines of whatever happens kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he pulled the car over on the side of the road and asked me to get out of the car, slam the door, put the window down. And this is like in a snowstorm, and was like, "I refuse to take an athlete to an event with a mindset like that," and just drove off and left me there. And luckily enough, like very, very, insert like an Arnold Schwarzenegger type accent with this whole thing. It's a lot more dramatic, but it was like, think about what you're saying to yourself. And he luckily only went around the block and came back and picked me up, but it gave me enough time to go, "Oh my gosh, I can't turn up to a race like that. There's no way I can compete against these other athletes if I'm in that kind of mindset." And I got back in the car and he said, "What did you think?" And I obviously shared my thoughts. And he said, "Yeah, you've got to have a winner's mindset no matter what."
Yeah, love that.
It's not going to happen. You don't see yourself standing on the podium, you're not going to win. And I sort of have taken that with me. That's like that internal dialogue has stuck with me through many hard moments and challenges in my life, whether it be in business, whether it be in life, whether it be confronting conversations, hard things with friends and or families, relationships, whatever it be. And it's like, you need to turn up with a winner's mindset no matter what. You've done the work, you've done the prepreparation, but you have to have the winner's mindset. Otherwise,
that's where it can all fall apart.
Where it falls apart. You're letting yourself down. You're letting yourself down from day dot. Otherwise, so
I think that's another whole like episode of internal dialogue.
Yeah,
that's like another 3-hour episode right there, which I would love to have maybe another time.
I was going to say I'd love to dive deep with you on that one. That's something I'm very, very passionate about. But like how we speak to ourselves is. It's why most of our behavioral and habit interventions fail, so it's like I'm all about a positive internal dialogue.
And a lot of time it's just a story we tell ourselves,
Totally. Absolutely. And this is what I've been saying to a lot of my clients lately too, is like, I think a lot of us our internal dialogue has become a bit negative lately, and rightly so in these challenging times. But, we can't continue to be the criticizer, we need to be, if a winner's mindset thing doesn't work for you, then, be the cheerleader, be the complimenter, be your own coach, right?
Totally. Just don't be that. Yeah. And like you said, it is a challenging time to easily go down that rabbit hole. Yeah. Easily. Yeah,
totally. It just starts with that awareness. And I think
exactly
a great exercise in self-awareness is that is just listening to yourself on a daily basis and how you're speaking to yourself, whether it's externally or internally, is a really good indication of where you sit,
where you're at
in
that moment. Yeah, definitely. Yep. Definitely. Last question from me, Steph, and thank you. This has been amazing. Like I said, I really feel like we need to do version 2, episode 2. I feel
like I owe you. I was running a little bit late for today's appointment.
All good. No stress.
It's on me.
No, definitely. Last question from me. If I said to you, Steph, what does be great mean to you? What would you say?
What does
be great?
Be great. Oh, I think to be great means be well for me. If you're asking me what it means to me to be well, like I think a big part of what I do is helping people know and feel like what it feels like to be well. So I think to be great for me means to be well, because I think from being well, and like I said, that is all encompassing. So
absolutely. I love that.
That's what
great answer. Great answer. Well done. Thank you. Steph, like I said, it's been incredible. Thank you so much for making the time, most importantly, for one, being here, but to give this incredible information and insight to all the amazing people that are going to listen to the episode. Where would be the best spot? And I highly encourage people to do this, to follow you, follow the journey, both personally and professionally. Where would that be?
Awesome. You can follow me on, obviously, Instagram at Steffi Prem with a PH. Studio PP is my business, so studiopp.com.au, or you can also find me at stephprem.com.au.
Love that. I'll put all that information in the show notes. So if you're listening, go to the description or go to the comment section. You'll see the links, and I'll make sure I'll put it in there for everyone too.
That's so
appreciate
kind.
that.
It's
no,
so
my
kind.
pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. That was awesome.
Yeah. Time flies.
This afternoon. I just loved talking shop with you, Jamie. It was an
Absolutely.
absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Well, hey, you enjoy the rest of your day, and to everyone else out there who's tuned in, thank you, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye for now.